after the events of last chapter, this chapter was highly anticipated and there was so much excitement for it. And of course, this turned out exactly how no one expected it to turn out, which is exactly how everyone expected it to turn out, because that's the one thing about One Piece. Always expect the unexpected. Now, for those of you who are not caught up or where you should be, which is where it is written in the description, then take this, watch this video at your own risk of being spoiled. But for those of you who are safe, you're caught up or you don't care, let's get into it. Now, I guess one of the least interesting parts of this chapter is Law and Blackbeard themselves, right? This fight between Law and Blackbeard, because that was like a given, right? To be honest, we all knew Law versus Blackbeard would happen. It's the other matchups, because it seemed like Law is the one who's like really carrying his crew, and the rest of them seem to be subpar at best. Now, Law versus Blackbeard, the most interesting part of this was like this re-room thing, because it's unclear for me what it is, but it seemed that Law has like a different part of his awakening as he continues to develop it from, Onigashima and wherever he awakened it before. He seems to be getting better and better at it, and now he doesn't have just the K room or the Kroom or whatever you want to call it. He has a re-room, and with this seems to, I guess in terms of difference, it seems that with the K room, the room is coated onto his sword, but with the re-room, he's able to put a room that he himself is not actually inside. The purpose of this, I'm not sure, but maybe it means that, in this case, he can do it at a distance without having to make it super massive to the point that he can finally reach his enemies. He can probably just put these enemies in a room and then, affect them at a distance. That's what it seems that's what's going on with the re-room. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me what you guys think, because I don't really know, but I think that makes sense. And Blackbeard's like, I didn't hear of this. Which clearly means that Blackbeard's got a good source of information. Speaking of which, he's got pudding, right? So at least he knows about that, unless that's common knowledge. But he's got pudding, and that means something. But, like I said, Law's done something weird with Awakening, and Law is strong enough to the point that, yes, he defeated Big Mom, which is great, but he did that in a team-up, so it's interesting to see how he faces someone like Blackbeard on his own, and he's gotten Blackbeard's attention. Blackbeard is shocked, he's confused, he's up for the challenge, which is not what we normally see of Blackbeard in terms of just being someone who wants to run away when things don't go well. But Blackbeard's up for the challenge, and at the very least, he made Augur think that, man, maybe we should retreat. We're not fully prepared for what we've gotten ourselves into here. That aside, I do want to also point out that, the rest of Law's crew, because those guys, seem like there's going to be a lot more with these guys. We're going to get a lot more characterization, and I'm excited for that. And it's John Bart, right? Now, what John Bart did is so unamazing, but it's like the first time I'm pretty sure we've seen a character do this. So I like it. I like it. I want to see how it goes from here. And that's the fact that John Bart protected Law against Augur trying to snipe him. Now, what's amazing about that, you might ask? Good question, friend. I'll tell you what's amazing about that. Is that so far in the series, we've seen 3 reactions to someone being shot. Option number 1, the most prevalent option, is that you have a natural disposition that makes you invulnerable to bullets. So either you are a Logia, or you are Kaido and Big Mom, or most classically, you are Luffy who bounces bullets, right? So some natural disposition. Option number 2, you dodge the bullet. Kind of like Zoro did with the Celestial Dragon. You just dodge, get out of the way. Number 3, you do something to the bullet. So, in Zoro's case, we see him slice bullets and, cannonballs. Maybe we see Sanji kick and use Diablo Jump. But, we never really see anyone be like, I'm not really invulnerable to this, but I'm just going to take the bullets head on, tank them, and, protect myself. Which is, again, it's not something you see, but it's also not crazy. I expect a lot of characters can do this, but it's the fact that John Bart did it. And this is Augur, so as much as, his bullets are probably just regular bullets right now, it's still I don't know, it's amazing, but it's not. I don't know, am I just getting too hyped up for this chapter for no reason that every little thing is exciting me? I don't know. But, now for the highlight, in my personal opinion of this chapter, Shachi and Penguin, whose names should have rang alarm bells in my head for a long time, honestly. Because Law even mentions that, hey, are all your commanders got devil fruits, bro? Like, you guys are just a bunch of anchors, like, waiting to drown. And Blackbeard's like, hey, the trade-off is worth the disadvantages. And that's true, especially if you got someone who can warp you the moment you're about to fall into water. That is definitely true. Or you got a horse that can fly over the water, so, But Law doesn't have that. Law has two fishmen on his crew. Literally fishmen, but not the One Piece fishmen. They are both of his men that act like fish and have fishy names, I'd say. And that is Penguin and Shachi. Now, Penguin is very easy. Penguin is Penguin. Like, why didn't we think these guys were good in the water? I think it's because water's been reserved for fishmen, which is what makes these guys weird, right? They talk about the cold seas of the North Blue, and that's great. More diversity in abilities and what they can do also makes sense. These guys are a crew that lives in a submarine. They need to be good at swimming. Like, if anything goes wrong at the bottom of the sea and you're just mediocre at best when it comes to swimming, you're just a crew waiting to die, right? That's like a crew of only devil fruit users. Like, who would make such a crew? But back to Shachi and Penguin. Now, obviously, Penguin makes sense because Penguin is a penguin. Penguin makes sense. But Shachi is a bit weird. And I found out that there's an animal called a Shachi Hoko. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's what I found out, which is a monster of some sort in Japanese lore. And it's got a head of a tiger and the body of a carp. So it's a type of sea monster as well, right? And I don't know much about the lore behind it, but I know it exists, and probably that's what his naming is based off of. But also, recently, as you can see, his headgear, Penguin has some kind of hat written Penguin, but then Shachi basically has a killer whale for a hat. So obviously, like, the sea animal reference has been there for the longest time, but, you know, it's not something you think about because, again, we have fishmen. Why would we have human beings who are good in the water when we have fishmen? But clearly these guys can do all sorts of interesting things, and I'd like to see how this goes because like if they had to fight a fishman, and I'm talking about like Jinbei, because obviously Jinbei can beat them, but like just a regular fishman, like if any of these two fought Arlong in the water, how would they do? You know what I'm saying? It's interesting. I'm not talking about like just simply overpowering, just like in terms of like skill and maneuvering in the water, like how good are these guys? And can they do something like fisherman karate? Like, is that something we'll see? Or are we going to see some other weird techniques? Like what Shachi did in the last chapter where he like spat water, like he just drank water then spat it out. Like, are we going to see some other kind of weird water-based techniques, which is not exactly fisherman karate, but, you know, maybe be inspired off of fisherman karate or these weird techniques that they themselves just learned while living in the cold waters of the North Blue. So I'd like to see how that goes down, but I'm excited. I'm here for it. But it also asked me, you know, what does the rest of the crew do? Like, what niche techniques are waiting? Do we have maybe like another niche devil fruit user? Because I believe, based on Lord's comments, most of them should not be devil fruit users. But we could have someone with a niche devil fruit, not something like super powerful, but something with like a weird enough technique that like is helpful for someone who lives on a submarine kind of thing, right? So I'd like to see, do we have something like that? Maybe it's someone who can just like see through objects, right? It's like an X-ray fruit, right? Which would be useful for someone who like is in a submarine, because then you can see into the sea beyond the wall of the submarine. So niche things like that, how are they going to come into this battle? I'd like to see. Let me know if you guys have any ideas. I don't know. But aside from that, I believe most of them will have all these weird techniques. And I don't know how many we're going to see. I do expect to see Beppo fighting. And I think based off of who was not in this chapter, who we expect to see more of, is Beppo and Burgess, right? So maybe those two are duking it out on the side. Anyway, I think whatever this crew has, like in terms of just general abilities, are all going to be water-based. Based on the fact that they're in a submarine, based on the fact that, you know, the type of crew that they are, I think they're all going to be like water-based or water-friendly abilities. But, you know, the most important question after this chapter is how will this all turn out? Because, you know, they're talking about, you know, whoever, winner takes all basically. But interestingly enough, Blackbeard doesn't have any interest in Law's fruit. He talks about interest in his road poneglyphs, which is very interesting to me because why wouldn't you want Law's fruit given what it's capable of? And I think there's probably like one answer that I could think of at best is that Blackbeard has no one to give it to. And this is not like a case that's like, oh, you know, there's no one who I could give this to, even though it's a powerful devil fruit, because all my main guys have devil fruits, so I just don't want devil fruits anymore. Like, it's a question of like, who can actually use the devil fruit? And it was stated that, you know, Law's devil fruit is great because he's a doctor, right? So if you just gave it to someone random, they wouldn't be able to fully utilize the fruit. And the best person to have given this fruit to would have been Doc Q. But now Doc Q has a different fruit of his own. So it's kind of like, who would you give Law's fruit to who they can use it to the best of their abilities? Even if you want to talk about the immortal surgery, maybe you actually have to be a good doctor to even be able to use the fruit to do that surgery. And like, if you're just any which pirate from any which sea, you probably won't even unlock that ability. You'll barely be able to make a room, if any at all. So that's the best thing I could think of, but maybe there's another reason why he's not mentioned that he's interested, or maybe it's a given that he's interested, and there's no need to say it, you know, just want his fruit and everything else he has on top of that. But how this fight will go, I think, is dependent on one individual alone, and that is Kuzan. Because, you know, the cover story kind of just played right into this chapter with the fact that they kidnapped Pudding, and now we found Pudding on Blackbeard's ship where this fight is happening. And I think that if Kuzan is around, because Augur's around, then definitely these guys are losing land, sea, or air, because on land you have to deal with Blackbeard and the rest of the pirates and Aokiji as well. If you fight in the sea, you know, Kuzan is just going to freeze the sea, so they can't even escape to sea, which is their thing. Or if you fight in the air, you have Stronger and my guy with the warp fruit and sniping in the air. So it's a lose-lose land, sea, or air. I don't see them winning in any way unless Kuzan does something weird. But in terms of if he's not there, because again, it's been a while since they kidnapped Pudding, it's not really an immediate thing. I could see it going, like, the main way I see it going is that, you know, Law's not going to go down, but Blackbeard's not going to go down. So, Law may escape with Pudding. They may find her and escape with her, but they'll probably lose something in return. Maybe they take out John Bart and John Bart dies. Maybe, you know, someone like Beppo gets kidnapped from his crew, right? You know, maybe Blackbeard, that's kind of what's happening as well. He's also kidnapping people from different factions. Kobe, Beppo, you know, one by one. But I could see something like that happening in which someone gets kidnapped from Law's crew, but he gets Pudding in return, or maybe someone dies, or there's some kind of cost for getting Pudding. I'd like to see how it turns out. But yeah, Law's crew is shaping up to be so interesting and weird, and I like it. Like, Law, it makes sense. Law thought about this pragmatically. Too many devil fruit users will sink the ship. Well, not sink the ship, will sink in the ship. So we need people who have unique abilities that we can use to our advantage to balance out the squad. Of course, the squad revolving around him, the ace of the team. But I'd like to see what other abilities characters have. We've seen, like, you know, some different characters that stand out to us on these crews, so I'd like to see what they can do. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you feel about Law's crew and how this fight with Blackbeard is going. As always, guys, please like this video if you like the video. Subscribe for more content like this. If you know someone who needs to hear the truth about Law's crew and how weird and interesting they are, share this video with them. As always, if you have time, please watch another video. If not, thank you for watching this video to the end. This is King KZ, and I'll see you in the next video.